Welcome to a new episode in our series, Becoming a Traditional Astrology in the 21st Century. Today with a very special guest from Norway, Stephen Ellis Birchfield. He was mentioned in the interview with Sharon Knight, and I'm very happy to have you here, sir. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And we were discussing how to do this video today, and we reached a consensus that we start after the rock and roll time in California in the UH period, in somewhere when he was leaving the country. When was that?
I left in 1972.
Why did you leave the United States of America, the country of the free and the prosperous and the chances and all that, leaving a country with all that opportunity? What motivated you?
Spiritual reasons, actually. I felt a calling to leave the country and be a missionary is what I felt like.
What church?
I wasn't a part of any church. I just decided to do what the first apostles did, and that was just to pick up, sell everything, and leave.
Okay, that's quite unusual. Let's put it this way.
Yes.
So you were a missionary without the backing up of an organization church. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
And where did you go first?
I came to Europe first.
What sort?
I hitchhiked across the United States and then took a plane to England.
So you're landing in England. Missionary work there already?
Well, let's just say when I first took off, I was, how do I say this? I think if you're a Christian, you would understand what a walk by faith is. I just went out by faith. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know what I was
doing. But you didn't come up to the stops and push the bell button and say, I want to talk with you about the Bible. You didn't do that.
No. Actually, I went to southern England. I went to, where is it? They have all the universities. Is it down around Bristol?
Bristol is a university, yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I believe it was down there. And I just sat out in the park. I talked to young people, met people. They invited me to stay for a while. And
okay.
So I was there for...
I'm getting curious, without a job or with a job?
I had no job.
So basically you were preaching the message of Christianity, of Jesus Christ, and you're talking to people and meeting people, and they invited you to their homes. Some days you slept on a bench, right?
No, actually, I never did.
Oh, you didn't? Okay.
Well, people, well, you have to remember back at that time, it was quite a different time of history, you know.
Yeah, okay.
There was a lot of people out traveling by backpack, and
yes,
that was
true.
Not unusual. I mean, I had a sleeping bag. I had, what I needed to sleep out in Hyde Park. It was necessary.
Yes.
It was just never necessary.
So you got to meet people and friendships came up and things like that. When did you leave? When did you leave the United Kingdom?
Oh, I was only there for 3 months, I think, and then I came to, I really didn't know where I was going to go. So I took a boat over to Belgium, and then I took a train, and I met some young kids from Norway, actually, on that train, and they were going to Paris. So I just followed along. I tagged along.
So we are now in France. What's the next country?
Well, Paris, that's where I actually met my wife.
Oh, your first wife, you mean? Okay.
Yes. And well, we both had the same vision to do something. So that's when we decided that we wanted to go to Africa and work.
Okay.
Whoops.
No, I just want to put up a film list I produced for this interview to give the viewers the possibility to do the same thing I did, because I was watching the first video with the Oraculous podcast of Michael, and I was watching this video. So the viewers who want to go a little bit deeper into what Stephen has to say, there's 2 long videos here on this film list, and you find the film list on our channel, Cosmologie. No, we don't want that. Cosmologie und Mikronährstoffe, and if you go to the playlists, there you have Stephen Ellis Birchfield, Transition of Modern to Traditional Astrology. So that's a background possibility if you are not sufficient informed with what we do today. So back to Paris, you met your first wife. How did that come about?
Oh, well, how about it? We met in Paris and
in the Louvre or at a party?
No, actually it was in a park. It was in a park in
okay.
Paris. So, but anyway, we decided we wanted to go to Africa together. So we went to Africa together.
How long before the first meeting and then the departing to Africa? Next day or a little bit more?
Well, let's see. We met in 1973, I guess.
Okay.
And our daughter was born in 1975, and we left right after that.
So 75, you're going to Africa, all different countries or just one specific?
East Africa. We were in Zambia and then Kenya and Tanzania.
Did you do developmental work for the country, or did you stick to the old program?
Well, we worked with the hospitals. I don't know if you've ever been to Africa.
No,
in the 70s, in Zambia, for example, I had a good friend. He was another American friend that was in Africa.
Okay.
He got sick and he ended up in the hospital. And so when we visited, the hospitals are so poor that they didn't have money to wash sheets. Now,
yes.
You can imagine this. So they had wire cages that when somebody was operated, they would use a wire cage to put over their body and drape the sheet over that. It was a very poor hospital. I mean, this is in Lusaka in Zambia. It was the capital of the main hospital in Lusaka, as a matter of fact. And so we felt very convicted to go out and raise some support for the hospital. So we visited all the farms in the area, and we raised continual support so that the farmers, they would drive to the hospital every day and deliver milk and vegetables and foods, and so that was kind of what I wanted to give to the world. You know, like you say, I came from America. I came from a very rich country, and I never was in total agreement with the politics in America. So for me to go out and do something like this was very important.
And how long did this last in this hospital surrounding?
Well, that wasn't the only thing we did, of course. I met the Archbishop Malinga, who was the Archbishop of East Africa at the time, a very sweet man. And he was so inspired by the fact that me and my family had just come by faith. So he had us go out and teach in the convents out in the bush.
Okay.
He had several Catholic convents. So he asked us, would you please go out and teach these young ladies about salvation and about different things like that. So I did that for about a year.
So I assume you're Catholic?
No, I'm not.
So what was your denomination?
This is probably why I have Mars in the 9th house, is because I don't believe in the church system.
Oh, that's interesting. So the Archbishop of the Roman Catholic Church dared to send out an heretic to preach the Catholic sermon.
But he was such a sweet guy. He himself was married. If you can imagine, an archbishop in the Catholic Church got married. This was one of the biggest scandals.
I'm starting to get the picture. Yeah. Okay.
This was one of the biggest scandals, but he was a real dynamic. I love the guy. I cannot say enough about his heart and his desire to preach the gospel.
This must have passed the observation of Ratzinger being the congregational spearhead. That's an interesting story. How long did that go?
Oh, well, we were in Africa for about almost 3 years.
And all this time, hospital and congregation and convents.
Well, it wasn't just the hospital. I mean, we got that started, and once that was started, we visited the prisons, for example, and had services for prisoners and met them and helped bring things that they needed into the picture. And I mean, it wasn't just that, but there was a lot of different things. I went to Tanzania afterwards, where in order to stay, of course, visas things were
Yes.
kind of important. So at that time, I had a job working as a teacher in an international school. So I taught French.
Considering the fact that you had 5 children with your first wife,
yes,
we're getting to the number 12 later on. Did the second child already arrive in that period?
The second child was born in Tanzania.
Oh, okay, and the third one?
And my third one was born in the States.
Okay, now we are.
Yeah, so
we have to come
I
back
got
to
I was in Africa for several, like I said, for two and a half, almost 3 years.
Okay.
And then I got very sick.
You got one of those diseases of Africa.
Well, yeah, it happens,
Okay, and you went back to the States because of insurance, I suppose.
Yeah, I went back to get some R&R just to get my health back again.
Yes, yes.
And we were in the States for from 78 to 83, almost 5 years.
That's 5 years. What did you do in that time?
Well, then I was working in my profession. I'm educated as an engineer.
Yes, I know.
So I was a project manager for a huge building firm in California at that time when I was there.
5 years of constructing work.
Yeah, yes, basically that's what it was.
So 83, what happens then?
Then I felt I didn't want to stay in America anymore, and we wanted to go back to the mission field, so we went back to France.
To France, okay.
So two of my kids are I have one child born in France, one was born in Tanzania, and 2 were born in the States. And then the 5th one was born when we returned to France.
So now you are in France. But what job did you do then?
Well, I started working with different organizations. I worked a little bit with Doctors Without Borders.
Okay.
I worked a while with the Red Cross.
Okay.
I was in the refugee centers in Syria and Lebanon, and also in Syria, Lebanon, and there's one more there. Okay, my brain.
Oh, never mind. We're getting the picture.
3 countries I was there.
And how long did this type of work last?
Well, I traveled back and forth a lot from France. I was based in France, but I traveled out, and I would spend 3, 4, 5 months abroad, and then come home again. Okay. Where I would raise money and funds, and then I would travel back out and come back. And then in 1984, 85, I met a very inspiring man. They called him Brother Andrew. He was from the Netherlands. And he had this open door ministry, it was called. And he was smuggling Bibles and gospel literature into the Eastern Europe, into the Soviet Union.
Okay.
And that's what I did for the next, till the wall fell in 1989.
Oh, you were traveling 5 years as an undercover agent. That's heavy.
So okay. I smuggled Bibles.
That was rather dangerous. I had a lot of relatives in the German Democratic Republic,
yes.
And I know from experience how they looked into your suitcases and under
the car. I traveled to. I was on my way to Czechoslovakia and had to travel through East Germany.
Yeah.
And I came into East Germany. They of course they stopped the train outside of Berlin. I mean, you don't even get into the city. It's like a kilometer or so outside.
Yes, I know.
All towers and guns. And,
yes.
Barbed wire fences and dogs and the whole business. And they were checking the train, and they came in and they checked my papers, and then they went out. The guy just stopped in the hall. I had a lot of gospel literature with me.
In your suitcase?
Well, on this trip, I was going to do some camping and meet a lot of young people out, and we were going to have Bible studies out in the nature, put it like this. So I had a tent with me, and I had a sleeping bag, and I had rolled up in my tent. I had rolled up all this gospel literature, lots of it. And this guy, he was the one checking passports, and he saw mine. I mean, I was how old at that time? I was 45 years old, a single American traveling
with a backpack. Okay.
with a bag. Yeah, they look at you like, okay, this guy. So he turned around and came back in and made everybody leave the compartment, and he strip searched me. And I mean strip searched me. I had to strip down totally naked. And he went through everything. And he picked up this was the heaviest part. He picked up the tent and he looked at it and just threw it to the side. Everything else he opened.
Except the one where the Bibles were.
Yes, except the one where I had the gospel. I mean, it was a very heavy time. I learned a lot about walking by faith at that time. And I mean, for me, that's just all being a Christian was just living the.
So
the
you
message.
never got caught.
No.
5 years.
I had a couple of very interesting close calls that same trip where I got checked in. We ended up going to Poland, and we went out into the woods, and I was with like about 30 young people, they were all ages from 18, 16 up to, 18, 19, young teens and early 20s, And we were camping out there, and we were having Bible classes in the morning and getting up and just having a nice fellowship out there. And all of a sudden, one day, the camp gets flooded with military.
Oh.
All these vehicles coming in. So I went into a tent to kind of get out of the way. I didn't want to be there. I didn't speak Polish. I spoke a little bit, but not so much. I mean, they would have known I was, an American as soon as I opened my mouth. So I went in the tent, and I remember just sitting there, just praying, high heaven, okay, they can't find me here because I know they'll arrest me. What had happened was that we ended up in the middle of military maneuvers for Eastern Europe. There were East Germans, there were Polish, there was Hungarians, there were Russians, there was all these different military, and they were having military exercises. So I told the kids, I said, maybe next time you guys should check this thing out a little bit. So, but they never caught me, and they never found me. They checked every tent except my tent. Yeah, there were some very heavy things that happened at that time. Yeah. So anyway, I could tell a lot of stories about that time.
What are the three biggest stories of that time you could tell?
I don't know. For me, the miracle was going in and helping people. The people in Eastern Europe, you're old enough, and you know what the situation was in Eastern Europe at that time. I was in, for example, in St. Petersburg for a while, and we would meet families, we'd start churches in the home, and then they would carry the gospel further themselves. It was kind of like the early apostles did. They went in, they met new disciples, and they started a church right there in that person's home, and they started meeting, and the gospel spread.
So what happened in St. Petersburg, considering that Russia is an Orthodox faith? It's the Eastern Orthodox.
Well, it is an Orthodox faith, but it's kind of like in Norway. Norway has an Orthodox faith as well.
Okay.
And it's more of the mouthpiece of the government than it is a religious. Faith is pretty much dead. But the people itself, it hadn't died. You could see it because these people were really sweet. I would raise funds, take it in, give it to them, because they would have coupons. They would have to stay in these long lines to get things. If it was a half a pound of butter, they would be standing in line for a whole day with their coupon in order to get a half a pound of butter for 3 months. That's what they had. Now they had what they call PXs. And there was another name, and I can't remember the name of it, where you could go in if you had dollars.
Yes, in Eastern Germany, that was Intershop.
Yes, it was very similar in Russia and in Poland, and all these places had the same thing. And you could take dollars, you could go in and you could buy meat, you could buy everything that you couldn't get at your local store that they never had. So that was one of my big projects, was to go out. When I was in France, I lived in France at the time, and I would raise funds with my family and my kids. We sang, we did a lot of different things. We raised a lot of support. I would take that money in as dollars. And leave it with the families there. They share it to the different families would share it, and they would able to get things that they needed. It was like, you know, I don't look back. I see it as a small effort by one man and his family at that time. But we touched a lot of people's lives, and that's really what it was all about.
But it was only always you, and your family was back in France.
Yes.
Wife and kids were.
Which was very unfortunate.
Wasn't that strenuous for the marriage?
Yes, that's why we ended up separated.
Oh, that's the reason why you ended the marriage. When did that marriage end?
1987.
And you were in France when it ended, I suppose.
No, actually, at that time we were in Denmark.
Oh, you were in Denmark. How did that come about?
Well, it was just a question of logistics and working with other people who were doing the same outreach in Eastern Europe.
Yeah, but to get a divorce, you need to have authorities, and in your case, French authorities, to get the divorce.
Well, we didn't get a divorce. I don't want to go into that story.
Oh, okay. I understand. I was just curious.
It's not a pleasant story.
Oh, okay. Okay.
We ended up separated.
Yeah, but I thought nowadays you're on good terms with your first wife, right?
Yes, and all my kids.
Okay, well. So let's jump over that. Denmark, marriages ended. What happened to you then next?
2 years later, I met my wife.
And in that 2 years,
my second wife, my
Norwegian. Were you alone in that 2 years, or did you have 2 or 3 of the children?
No, I had none of my children.
Okay.
That's part of the sad tale there.
Okay. So 2 years on your own in Denmark?
Yes, I was traveling. Well, that's at a time when I started raising funds to build 3 orphanages. We wanted to. We were involved in building one in Bosnia, one in Romania, and then another one in South America. And it's called Hope of the Future. And so I was working with that. I was traveling in Norway and in Sweden and raising funds to, you know, support this work, and driving down with clothes and medicine and everything down to Romania and Bosnia both. So I did that with my second wife's brother. He was involved with that. So we just got involved as a big family. It was a big family thing. So.
And you married, and then the next, she brought 2 children into the marriage, right?
She brought 2 children into the marriage.
And then 5 other children arrive over the time. So you are now a father or stepfather of, in total, 12 children.
That's right.
And that's quite a number. And then you have quite a number of grandchildren and grandchildren. Now let's see, this work for the orphanages, how long did that go?
Oh, from about 1989 until 1993, around there. 1993.
Okay, I get the feeling that the goddess of astrology is looking around the corner. Is that right?
Well, that's the time I got into traditional astrology. Yes.
And how did that happen?
Well, as I saw it in the other interviews, I used to, you know, practice more modern astrology, psychology.
No, wait a minute. When did the goddess of astrology first approach you? When did that happen? In your Californian high school
days?
It
was the second time I was back in the States in the 70s and late 70s and 80s.
And how did that came about? Did you meet somebody who said you have to learn astrology?
No,
or did a book in the hospital where you were lying in your bed and you were bored, and somebody brought you an astrology book? Or how did it come about?
No, you know the song "The Age of Aquarius"?
Yes, of course. A musical Hair. Yes.
I was in Hollywood and I went to see the musical Hair.
Oh.
And I listened to the song and I thought, well, what is this song talking about? You know, I mean.
Yes, Jupiter in the 7th house. Yeah. Okay.
So it got my curiosity, and of course, the very first book you get is what's her name? Sun Sign Book of Astrology, Linda. I'm sorry.
It's not important. You got a sun sign book, okay?
Yes, but I mean, eventually I learned how to cast charts, to do it all by hand.
No, not so fast. Not so fast. How did you do that? Did you Did you have somebody helping you, a guru, or only by books?
Only by books.
Only. So you're a self-taught astrologer on the psychological side.
Basically, yes. I mean, the people that I listened to the most were people like Howard Sesfortis and
Liz Green,
Liz Green,
Dane Wadya,
yes, yes,
Rupert, Alexander Ruperti, think people like that.
yes. There you
Okay,
go.
now we are in the 90s. And how did you find the hindsight people?
I had a good friend in America that I corresponded with. His name was Jonathan. And he had taken Robert Zoeller's basic course.
The first one, yeah, okay.
Yes. And we used to
I can insert it that moment. We are talking with Stephen, who is a Adeptus Medievalis Astrologiae, and the guru who bestowed this knighthood of astrology to Stephen in 2004 is Robert Zoller. How and when did you get in contact with Robert Zoller?
Well, that was what I was going to come to. This Jonathan that I knew in the States, he gave a challenge to me. He said, I challenge, because if you know modern astrology.
Yes, I know. I have myself.
You don't believe in prediction.
Yeah, I have myself an education from Nikolaus Klein in Munich, who was a Zen master as well, and it was esoteric psychological astrology. So I know what you're talking about.
So he said, if you want to learn how to predict, then I challenge you to learn from Robert Zoller and look into, he said, and he's the one that actually pointed to Project Hindsight. Okay. This was in 1991. I was very discouraged with modern astrology. I think I mentioned the story.
In the other videos you mentioned the story.
So I'm not going to go into that one again. No. But I got very discouraged with this psychobabble, that dribble that was, you know, we say we're helping people, but we're not really helping them. Anyway, so I looked into Project Hindsight and I started subscribing, and I never met Robert Schmidt or any of these people before, but I did support them and I started getting all their materials. And I just read on my own. So I was getting a lot of, I really love Vicious Valens. I love this guy. He really spoke to me a lot. He had a clear mind and he was very precise about things. So I read it, but still it's like, the material that was coming out from them, and then there was a little Bonatti and there was a little Moran, and I mean Moran is, I'm not going to get into that discussion, but you had bits and pieces of astrology, traditional astrology coming out. Of course, William Lilly, a lot of horary astrology and things like this. But I couldn't put it all together. How does it work? You know, how do you really do a chart, you know?
Yes.
And that's when I decided, okay, I need a teacher. And so I wrote to Robert Zoller in 2003.
Yes.
And I asked if, you know, to be a student. And he said, I'm sorry, my course is full.
Yeah, you told the story in the other video. And then you got a place because somebody
dropped out. Yes. And he offered me that place. So that's how I got into.
Let's come back to what you said about Morat de Villefranche. There is Sultan Mason astrosynthesis. I believe that is something of interest to you, right?
No, not really. I've never read it.
Oh, you've never?
I have never looked at it.
Oh, okay. I got the impression from the other interview you did. Okay.
No, I just know of it because Robert used to talk about it.
Oh, okay.
He got the technique of what they call primary motivation. He got that from Zoltan Mason.
Oh, okay.
That was something that came from him, that came from this astrosynthesis.
Yes.
Robert, in his course, he said, well, there's no, you know, I can't really call this a traditional technique because it's this and that and the other. I would disagree with him because now that we have a lot of material. We have a lot more material than Robert had access to.
Yes, yes.
And it's very clear that it was something that they were doing anyway. So I've got a lot of quotes in the back of my head where that it was very important to know, where was it in one quote? I think it was in Saul. Saul talks about it. He says that, what is the quote now in my head? I have to remember this. He talks about, I would almost have to find the quote for you.
This is Mason Sultan, and that is to be found on astro.com, the biography of this interesting Slovakian-American astrologer, proponent of the methods of Morat de Villefranche, Morinus, and a translator of Morat's book 21. And in Germany, we have that too. We have a book, Kombination und Synthese, something like what Morat was propagating. And we have a translation into German of the 21 book you have here. And we have an information here on the homepage about James Holden, who translated the whole Morinus. Are you in possession of the whole Morinus text from James Holden?
Well, I have about, how many? I have 5 or 6 of the texts.
So this is an example for the translation by James Holden. This is a paperback book 21, but all the other books of Morinus are translated by James Holden, a very famous American astrologer.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so that is synthesis. We have a tradition in Germany where you can find this book. These are Sindbad Weiss, German authors who tried to do a book about how Moranus did the synthesis of astrology. Now, I'm showing this because I wanted to ask you, Stephen,
yes.
One problem we as astrologer, and especially if we are traditional astrologers, one problem we have, we got a lot of information out of the nativity chart and all the other charts and all the prediction methods. But the problem sometimes is it's not so clear cut as in horary. In horary astrology, you have a clear cut question and then the chart is used to answer that question. If you have a nativity chart, that's a little bit more complex, more complicated, and especially because there are some different informations you have to synthesize. How do you, Stephen Ellis, synthesize charts?
Oh my goodness, that was a big question.
Yeah, it's the biggest problem for all astrologers all over the world.
I always start with the ascendant. That's where I always start in the chart, because you have to know about the person's mental qualities. It's very clear in the historical record. In order to, even in Ptolemy, we had this. If you really want to know somebody, you have to know what their mental qualities are, their social status. These are all things that were really important as far as delineating a chart. It is still today. I mean, if we're going to talk about a person's profession, then you have to, well, what education do they have? You know, what is their temperament? You know, I mean, what kind of work are they fit for? You know, what is their motivations? You know, all these things are very important in helping delineate the other houses. I mean, our interaction with the world is the other 11 houses in the chart, right? We are the ascendant. That's the person. And we have this interrelationship. I'm writing some lessons right now. I'm doing a course, writing a course. And right now I'm in the second part of the course on delineation, as a matter of fact. So I've been compiling a whole lot of quotes from the historical record that deal with the necessity of the soul and what you learn from delineating it. It was an eye-opener for me to realize that these early astrologers, especially in the Hellenistic time, were much more aware of it. When you move into the Persian era, this naturalistic explanation for astrology started gathering traction, you know, rather than the philosophical basis that you have in the Hellenists. You know, in the Hellenistic astrology, you have much more Platonic thoughts and even Stoic and things like this.
Stoic, especially, yes.
When you come into the Persian era, in the medieval Persians, for example, if you take Abu Mashar, for example, his recent text that was translated, the Greater Introduction, it's just naturalist philosophy, straight out of, that's Aristotle, although as Ben brought out, it's hard to tell where he got his Aristotelian philosophy because he's not clear in his book about it. That's absolutely correct, Ben, to say that. But it is Aristotle, and it's, you have to remember that Abu Mashar himself, he was brought to Baghdad not for astrology.
I know.
He came because he was a master in the hadith,
yes,
in the sayings of Muhammad. And that was his job. That was his scholarly, what shall I say, his knowledge was based around that.
And then the goddess of astrology was lurking around the corner again, in the case of Abu Mashar, because a younger guy, 9 years younger, challenged him, sort of.
Well, he challenged his philosophy. This is what happened. And poor Abu Bashar was standing there with his pants hanging down, didn't know quite how to, he wanted to answer on a religious basis. And the other guy speaking from a philosophical. Al-Kindi was, the history there's a very good history book that was written about Al-Kindi. It's by an English author. I'd have to dig up the name. He wrote a biography about Al-Kindi, and it was very informative when I read it. I really enjoyed it because a lot of things came out. For example, at that time period, the Orthodox Islamic imams were totally against bringing in Greek philosophy. They didn't want anything to do with astrology because in order to bring in astrology, you had to bring in the philosophy. So the whole thing was more or less a taboo subject to begin with. It was Al-Kindi who fought to open its own curriculum aside from everything else, so that, and it would be heavily, what do you call, monitored, to put it like this. And so they were able to translate all this stuff. And eventually it started getting around. People like Abu Mashar started reading it and understanding a little bit about it. But it was an answer to, well, we had a little bit of the same in the Catholic Church in the Renaissance, had very strict Orthodox views as far as astrology was concerned, and it had to be made more scientific, more this. And so we have this development also in the Islamic world.
But if you had to make a choice, I give you 3 names, and you have to choose. I give you a couple of names, and you have to choose 3 as the most essential. Vettius Valens, Manilius, Dorotheus, Julius Firmicus Maternus, Al-Kindi, Mashallah, Abu Mashar, Ibn Esra, Ali ben Hachel, and Bonatti, and Giordano, how this Renaissance guy, Girolamo, you know what I mean. Which
yes.
which three would you take as the most important?
Well, we don't really have a good copy of Dorotheus,
okay,
but we have a half decent copy of Valens. I would say Valens for absolute sure.
So Valens is on the list. Okay.
Valens.
How about this controversial figure Ptolemy?
Ptolemy, I have to say this. I really like Ptolemy.
But you wouldn't put him on the list.
I like it, huh?
You wouldn't put him on the list.
I know. Well.
Okay. Let's
second list. He would be on a second list.
I'm interested in your basic 3. So who would come on the list? Abu Mashar?
Definitely Abu Mashar. How
about Ibn Esra?
No, I would probably say Saul.
Saul, okay. So you would stick to the Arabic part.
Well, yeah, Saul, especially because Saul was a superb compiler If you read the translation that Ben did for his Arabic translation,
Benjamin Dykes, the great translator, yes.
Which has never been translated before. So this was a brand new project, and I had the real honor to be able to read it for Ben in his translation and make comments and everything throughout the whole thing. So it was really a pleasure to be able to do that, because Saul really, he quotes Alan de Gazar, he quotes Dorotheus, he quotes Visius Valens, he quotes all of the earth, everything that astrology was built on.
Okay, so these are the 3 authors on your personal list. If you would have, you're doing a course, you're preparing a long distance course, I suppose.
Yes.
Do you put books of these authors as mandatory to read, or do you? What would be a mandatory book to read?
Well, yeah, that's not true. I do make, I use some of the compilations. This one, Introduction to Traditional Astrology, that Ben Dykes wrote.
The large one, not the small one, the large one.
The large one. It's got not the one by Abu Mashar, but it's got the compilation of Abu Mashar and Al-Kabisi.
Yeah, that's another book. Yeah, okay. So now let's come back to my initial question. The biggest problem for every astrologer in the world, no matter what system he's following, is the synthesis. We were talking about Morinos and his method of synthesizing the factors of a chart. You were talking about the complex of the delineation of the ascendant and all what comes with it. You were talking about delineation of the soul and everything what comes with it. That's 2 factors for a synthesis. Would that be sufficient for a first approach to synthesize a chart?
Well, I think it's a very good start, but you have to be able to understand how its relationship to the other houses. I mean, that's where it's all about.
So that comes into it too. So basically we are talking about I think you were talking about this as conceptual language.
Yes.
Can you elaborate what you mean with the synthesizing process in the delineation of a chart is the end result of a conceptual language process? Is that right?
Yes.
So what do you mean by that?
This is something that I absolutely. I'm an engineer by profession. I have 2 degrees in engineering. So for me, mathematics is alpha and omega. Laws of physics, laws of science are involved. When I first started studying traditional astrology, it resonated with me simply because not because I believe that the planets are doing anything, but it was the conceptual language that was being used that was so alive. And it was like math. You could put these things together and you were coming up with sentences and you were coming up with phrases. This is one thing that Rob used to tell us. He said, if you can learn the language of astrology, you can synthesize a chart. And it's a complex. It's not just black and white. And I know in your interview with Sharon, for example, you asked about using the lots. And well, I use the lots all the time. That's a very interesting, because when we talk about prediction, whether it was the Greeks or the Persians, for them, it was, in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, let every word be confirmed. It was not just, well, I'm going to pull this out. You can read it in Abu Mashar's on his solar revolution. He talks about, predicting death, for example, when you have a really direction through the bounds and you have a malefic handing over to a malefic and there's a malefic participating. He said, it's a very bad period, but it doesn't necessarily indicate death unless you have something else that indicates it. I mean, again and again, Abu Mashar takes us back and he emphasizes the point of having several indicators. The same is true of the early Hellenistic astrologers. If I want to, for example, if we talk about children, I've talked about this because of my own chart is so exceptional when it comes to that.
Yeah. Well, you have 12 of them.
If you just look at the 5th house, if all you're doing is looking at the house and the ruler of the house and planets in the house, you're not going to get the story.
No,
I have versions.
And you need the lot of children, right?
I have 12 children, yes.
I know, I mean, you need a very lot of children.
Oh yeah, you need a lot of children, absolutely. As a matter of fact, that is, if you read Saul, for example, in Saul, when he talks about delineating children, first thing he talks about is Jupiter, and Jupiter being in the 10th house. As a matter of fact, this is, you go back all through the authors and they all say the same thing. And then he talks about the lot of children. It's not until almost the end of all these delineation techniques that he talks about the house. Then you look at the house, you look at the ruler.
I believe Abu Mashar in his great introduction, and I have both here, the one with Yamamoto and Burnett in translation and the one of Ben Dykes. I think it's book 11. It's a whole book about the lots.
Yes.
Is that the longest text about the lots available for us? Or is there another book which is even more?
No, I think that's got to be the longest chapter.
About the lots.
Bonatti set so much price on it that he nearly quotes it verbatim in his in his treatise. You know.
So let's come back to the most important lot, in my opinion, the lot of daimon. Dorian Gisela Greenbaum has written a dissertation on the daimon, and she recommends every traditional astrology never to use again the lot of spirit, because it's not a spirit, it's a daimon. What is your relationship to your personal daimon?
Okay, because I disagree a lot with what other people have said.
Oh, you disagree with Dorian Gisela Greenbaum about the daimon?
I believe, because first of all, I'm a Christian.
Okay.
And I know what the Bible says about it, that God has given each one of us a spirit, our own unique spirit. And,
but isn't that the daimon?
That's that. Voila. This is what I feel it is.
Okay.
It's our own personal spirit. It's not like a third party looking in on us, but it's actually a part of the ascendant. I mean, it's part of the things that come inside of us. It works within us to lead us and guide us. Okay. This is just my, I know there's probably other people who would really disagree with me.
No, it's okay. I want your opinion. That's why I'm doing these talks. Okay.
For me, I use it in the sense that it is a person's spirit.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. You got up a text here.
No, continue. That's just for the next question.
Oh yeah. Okay. To find that spirit that leads and guides your mind, your thoughts, and everything, because this is what, to me, and Vicious Valens gives the best description of the lot of spirit that's ever been written. You know, I mean, if you read through his text book.
I'm beginning to understand why you are shying away from the term daimon, because spirit is coming from the Bible and is closer to your belief, right?
Yeah, well, yes. I mean, it's closer to what I think spirit is. Daimon is a spirit. That's what it is. But it's a little in Platonian.
You are shying away from the connotation demon, because that's black magic and you don't like that. Okay, yeah. I understand. I just wanted to make this, to clarify this. So we are talking about a lot of spirit if we are talking with Stephen, and we are talking about a lot of diamond when we are talking with Mrs. Greenbaum or reading her dissertation, which I highly recommend. And now we're coming to your Facebook account. In your Facebook account, I found this quotation: "I do wish people would stop calling this conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter on December 21st, 2020, a great conjunction," and so on and so on. Let's talk a little bit about that Facebook post. Why are the people wrong when they talk about the great conjunction? Because the most astrologers say this is the change from Earth to air, and this is the great conjunction. And well, tell us your story.
In Persian astrology, the great conjunction was actually when Aries came back to Aries. That was the great conjunction. It wasn't changing in between. They called it the shift of the triplicity.
Yes,
they didn't call it that name. Great conjunction never appeared.
So let's say a middle large conjunction instead of the great conjunction. But
it's a conjunction of yeah.
But you would still disagree. The 21st.
Well, I don't believe it changed the Earth. I believe. Okay, the air signs changed in 2000.
Right, that's your position. I wanted to come to that.
Yes,
Your position is, according and following Abu Mashar's description in Religion and Dynasties, his approach is different from what we modern people normally assume, that we take the exact degree change, and then we had the first change in 1980, and then in 1920 going backwards, and you don't agree with it. Could you tell this story why you don't agree with that perspective?
Okay, again, the conjunctions are concept. That's why they could calculate very accurate, well, accurate enough where the conjunctions would be.
They could have done that, yeah, Abu Mashar was able to do that. But he didn't.
It wasn't just Abu Mashar, but it was also Masha Allah and Umar and all these different, they could calculate it, okay? They were using, their beginning was actually wrong, which is why their charts came out wrong. But they used this siege, it was called. It was these tables, these Persian tables, and the Persian tables were based on Indian tables, which had nothing to do with Ptolemy. So it's like, that's why oftentimes when we look at these charts, we scratch our heads and say, well, I can't get this to come up on my chart. It's because Janus, by the way, they've added a module that's Sasanian. It's called Sasanian module in their choices amongst the sidereal, and that one almost always gives me correct if I'm calculating the check, because they use the Sasanian tables that's based on. So anyway, that's just a side jump. The thing is that they used the median conjunction. That's the only conjunction that will give you 13 and 12. You can't get it from anywhere else. You can't get it using sidereal. You can't get it using tropical. The only way you can do it is use the median motion of the planets. And I've had people say, well, that's not astrology. Well, it is. I'm sorry. If you really want to get technical, I mean, look at the 12th parts. And the 12th parts are nothing but an ideal. It's just Platonic ideal.
A conception, yeah, a concept.
Yes, of the elongation of the moon to the sun and their relationship. That's how you come up with 2.5 degrees. That's the basis for it. The 13 degrees is based on the motion of the sun on the moon without the sun. It's the moon's actual motion. So they're actually the 13th parts are very different concept than the 12th parts. The 12th parts are based on a solar astrology because they're based on the moon's relationship to the sun, which is why you never hear them using the 13th parts. Okay, this is very simple. And this is just an ideal concept. The 12th parts is only an ideal concept. And using, it's not based on anything reality. Okay, so we use a lot of these type of concepts in the conceptual language.
Did you yourself sort of made a mental experiment? On the one side, you follow strictly the book Religion and Dynasties by Abu Mashar, where this mean conjunction is described in length, a thick book, a real thick book. It's nearly as thick as the Great Introduction in the critical edition. Okay, we have this Abu Mashar concept, and then we have a lot of astrologers who don't go by the mean concept, but by the exact concept. Did you ever try to compare the two concepts in their effects and in their outcomes?
Yes.
When and how did you do that? Okay,
I had a really nice discussion with, I don't know if you know Asam, he's a Persian. Asam?
No.
He's a Persian astrologer.
Oh, is that the second video you made?
Yes, Asam.
Wait a minute. I try to show it. If that's the one we are talking about, we have to go to the film list. Is that this guy?
No. That's Ashwin. Ashwin is Indian.
Oh, okay. But you never, so you never did a video with him, didn't you?
No. We see. I
Oh.
did a lecture with him when we were in Turkey together, and we both did lectures on Persian astrology.
And you didn't record the lectures and didn't put on the internet, so only 50 people know about the lecture.
I actually have them. I've never published it. No.
Why don't you put it up on a YouTube channel?
It probably could be. I just never had time.
I offer the. Why don't you make WeTransfer.com and I download your lecture and I upload it on my channel? That's okay.
Because I have the recording of it.
Yeah. You need the copyright to give me that.
Yes.
If you have the copyright of those videos, you should rush to get this publicized because people want to know that.
Yes, Sharon's been pushing me to publish.
Okay,
more.
I tell you something. Why don't you ask people with a higher click rate in channel business? My channel is a small channel, very, very long videos. Why don't you ask Michael from Oraculus or other people, at least try to get it uploaded by whatever person or whoever. To establish a YouTube channel takes you 5 minutes. So you can't argue that it's too much time.
Yes.
Just to give, okay, that's your problem, that's your decision. Okay, how did you do this experiment to compare Abu Mashar's concept on the one hand for mundane astrology, that's what we are talking about, and then with the exact degree conjunction theory people?
Well, this is what I wanted to explain.
What mundane let me see, situations did you use for the comparison?
Well, the recent conjunction for one.
Yes.
But I'm not going to get into this. What I wanted to get into was that Ehsan, who is Iranian,
yes,
he lives in Iran. He's actually an Indian astrologer, but he really loves Persian astrology. He has access hundreds of texts from the later Persian era, in which they use not only the exact conjunction, but the mean conjunction. Okay. So this is where and we had several discussions about this because it was very important to me. And these Persians, they called it, for example, in our conjunction in 2000, when you came to Taurus, right? That was the Earth conjunction. It was borrowing from the earlier triplicity. Mm-hmm. It was actually the shift, but it was borrowing from this is how these Persians called it. Or it would borrow from the next coming in, right? So they had a way to look at it. Yeah. And looking at it like that really caused me to stop and think a little bit about, okay, well, what was the, if you want to call it the zeitgeist of the Earth triplicity, you know? When you look at the last 250 years or whatever it is, 200 years of history that we have, it was the establishment of borders and nations. I mean, that really came down to fine-tuning nations. Everything from, I mean, if you look in Europe in 1812 and 1817, you had Norway, you had Denmark, you had all these countries being established as countries on their own feet again, you know, after the Napoleonic Wars. And so there was all this in France. I mean, I could go in, I've been trying to write all this down, to find time to write all these things down. Yes. I don't get the time. Okay. I'm a practicing astrologer, first difference. But anyway, my point is that in 2000, it was borrowing, the way I see it, is it borrowed from the Earth. But it was foreshadowing the air signs. Okay. So are you the only Norwegian Middle European astrologer in the year 2021 who is following Abu Mashar on the mean conjunctions, or do you know other contemporary astrologers who would establish a club of Abu Mashar's conception? Well, having the torch, Abu Mashar is right and you other people are wrong like that. Because it wasn't his conception. He was just expounding on it because if you, I know Ben has promised he's working on another mundane book of Omar's mundane book on beginnings and the revolution of the years, and actually on this subject. There's several authors that predate Abu Mashar on this. He's not the one that invented it, or
okay. I agree. I can live with that. That Abu Mashar just reported the method,
yes.
technique, but still the question: do you know a single European astrologer in the traditional astrology community, which is a small community still? It's growing. It's growing. It's growing. In America, especially Chris Brennan and Demetra George, and in Portugal, Helena Avila and Luis Ribeiro, they're all having pupils. The message is spreading, but we are still a small community. I'm a member of this community since a couple of months only. So, you know, my transition started in September. So basically the traditional astrology community is small in numbers. And then we have you propagating a very special method, mean conjunctions, Saturn, Jupiter. Do you have one person in the European context who is on your side?
I know me and Sharon have worked together on this, yes.
Oh, is Sharon a mean conjunctionist as well?
Well, I'm not going to speak for her because I can't.
Yeah, okay.
But we do talk about it a lot, you know.
Okay, that's two. A third one? Sue Ward, is she on?
Well, I don't really talk to anybody else, so I don't really know.
Okay. So
I have no other contacts with, other than Levente Laszlo.
Oh, yes, that's an academic professor in Hungary.
In Hungary, yes, and he's the one doing all these recent translations from the Byzantine era, and I work.
But he's not a practicing astrologer, right?
No,
he's somebody like Charles Burnett or Stefan Heilen or David.
Yeah, I wouldn't exactly call him like Charles Burnett because he does know astrology.
Oh, Charles Burnett does know astrology too.
Yeah, he does know astrology.
Okay, so we have the problem.
Yeah, there is this difference between.
So we have no consensus. We should probably create an organization with peer-reviewed journals to discuss themes like that, right?
You really have a sun in the ascendant, don't you? You really have this Lord of the Ninth in your ascendant just shining away there.
Yeah, okay.
When you peer-reviewed this, that's okay. You want to know?
Well, but that's the future. We need research on the question.
Oh, we need it. Yes.
I mean, we can't leave it like that. If the mean conjunction is a valid conceptual hypothesis, and the real conjunction is, on the other side, a valid hypothesis, there has to be some research to compare the results. And then by comparing the results...
How do you compare predictions?
Yes, you do, because you said one guy in a cabinet and say, okay, do a prediction with the mean conjunction method, and another guy in the next cabinet. That's not double blind, I agree on that. That's not the science in double blind categories. But if you do that 1,000 times, then you get material, you get results to compare.
If they're using the same techniques, yes. I mean,
yeah, but it's different.
There's no real standard to look at these things.
No, but we have to develop that.
Yeah, I agree. This is why I'm just working quietly in my world here.
If you want to become a part of culture and civilization and taken seriously, you have to do the hard work.
Yeah.
I mean, that's okay. I agree. Looking at the community of traditional astrologers in England, that's 3 people who are not using the outer planets, and that's our community. People who are not using the outer planets. As soon as you use the outer planets, you can throw the whole thing out the window, because then you don't get research results. But if you're going into the old text, Abu Mashar is reciting and reporting about the mean conjunction Saturn Jupiter concept. I would say we are talking about 10 million euros and we have results. So that money is available if you start to collect it. But just take your own biography. If you sum up all the money you collected over the years, and you are one person, okay? If you consider how many people are around who could start taking this problem seriously, we would get results. And the problem of the scene of the astrology community is, I talked about this today with Joseph Gray. Everybody is his own narcissist guy, and nobody is talking together. Okay, that's an interesting story to continue in a later session. Let's go back to our whole subside, because I wanted to ask you something. Are you familiar with Sue Ward? Do you know her?
I don't know her. I know of her.
Oh, okay. So let me leave that book of her out. I have something here for you. Technical questions. Make this larger. Okay. The sect in Greek is called hieresis.
Yes, sect.
Do you have the feeling that the term sect is not good enough to describe what we are talking about when we are talking about hieresis? What is your concept of sect?
Oh, I don't know if you've ever had a chance to listen to Robert Schmidt's talk on this.
No, because it's not available. You can't get it on the internet.
I have his course in the according to Hermes, the first part of it, which is several. It's only recorded, and it's several discussions of the terms, and he talks very much about sect.
Yes.
Also, Levente, in his recent translations, he translates it as party, not sect.
Yeah.
And this is actually something that Robert Schmidt really made clear when he was talking about sect. I can read you a quote here from him. There we go. I'm just going to give you a quote from Robert Schmidt here. This was from his lecture on sect. He says, first of all, contrary to the Ptolemaic account of sect, in the original doctrine, the condition of being of the sect does not make any delineation better. It simply tells us that as a member of the sect in favor, the planet can push through its own legislation, so to speak, according to the principles of the sect to which it belongs. In other words, in Hellenistic texts, delineation is normalized on the condition of being of the sect. It constitutes a baseline subject to further modification. One of those modifications occurs when the planet is contrary to the sect. Then we might say that its legislation is always in some manner compromised, so that the delineation is always worse than the delineation normalized on the condition of being of the sect. The planet cannot legislate according to the principles of its own sect. This follows directly from the political model I have been using. When a given party is not in favor, and this is the word that Leslo is not, Levente is using to translate the word sect, is party. He says, the political model, when a given party is not in favor, it has to add or subtract measures from the legislation it would otherwise put through if it were in favor. And such compromises always corrupt the legislation. Now this text right here, this lecture from Robert Schmidt was very profound. It changed my whole, I just wrote an article just because I predicted the outcome of the election in the States, and it was wrong. And so I had to be honest. I'd say, well, what did I do wrong? Because in that examination of where I went wrong, the biggest mistake I made was on sect. It was understanding.
We have a problem. We have a problem here about the factual facts. When you said you did a prediction about the outcome of the election, we have a semantic problem. Let's, for the purpose of discussion, assume the election was forged. Then your prediction would have been right.
Well, No, because when you're asking the heavenlies for the solution to the
Oh,
gonna come to power-
your argument is you are not asking about the number of the votes and predicting the number of the votes. You are predicting the
who's
official,
going to
the
be president?
official registered inauguration. So
Yes, because I used the inauguration chart from Trump to make these predictions. I used it as a beginning chart of his reign. This is what they did in the early before. They would take when the guy came to power, and they would use that time period. They would cast solar returns. They would use the Aries ingress. They would use the ingress of the sun into different.
And based on that material, you came to a result a second term, right?
Well, it was based on what I called, because Saturn, here's the exact reason that I did it. Because in the conjunction chart, or in his inauguration chart, the midheaven is Capricorn.
Yes.
Okay. And at the time of the election, Saturn was transiting exact degree of the midheaven of his chart. So you have Saturn in its domicile. You have, and according to things that I learned both from Robert Zoller and Robert Moran, from Moran, it's going to produce something good.
Okay, just
but
wait a
that
minute.
wasn't taking sect.
But wait a minute, not so fast. We are now in a real interesting situation because we're talking about language and astrology. The term good, something good will come out of that situation, right? That was what you said.
It will produce something positive, yes.
Okay, if I take,
I'm just speaking of.
Yeah, okay.
I really, okay, before we discuss this, I really would rather you read what I wrote now.
No,
because I'm very specific.
I'm on a different path here. If you say something good comes out of it, okay? Let's assume for a moment two hypotheses as fact. The election and the inauguration of Biden was sort of questionable. But something good came out of it because that laid the ground that he will be re-elected in 2024. Would your prediction?
No, that's not the way.
Would your prediction be sufficient for this good outcome, even there is a lab in between?
I would be stretching. I would be stretching to make it work like that. I feel like I would just be stretching it.
Okay,
because for me,
I was
when you have the ruler of the midheaven coming to the midheaven, then that's a promise that he would get his position again. He would have it renewed. Okay.
But that's my problem here. His position
but that's just the point. You see, you're not listening to what I'm saying. The problem is that Saturn, at the time of its transit, was out of sect.
Okay.
Which gives a totally different result. It means the corruption and the destruction of whatever's there, even if it's in its domicile. This is what I tried to, which I also took the time to explain when I wrote this piece about my prediction. Because if I would really looked at it with delineation eyes and keeping sect in mind, I probably would have said, no, the election is going to be corrupt and taken out. He's not going to be president again.
Okay.
See, and this is what this is why I say you have to almost read my prediction. And
I agree. Okay.
Read my correction or how I saw where I made my mistake.
Yes. So let's come back to Robert Schmidt on this thing. No, that's wrong. I have to go back to what we are doing right now, which is Stephen Ellis Birchfield. And Robert Schmidt's premise, following the late David Pingree's conjecture, is that Hellenistic astrology was established by one person or a small group of people. That is a position Robert Schmidt is popularizing. He's dead now. He passed away. What do you think of that position of Robert Schmidt?
it's speculation. There's very little facts there's circumstantial evidence, but I mean, if you know anything about law, then you know.
Well, I'm a lawyer, yeah.
Okay, well then you know how the court sees circumstantial evidence.
Yes,
okay?
right. Yes.
It's not a primary source of evidence.
Okay, I agree.
And I have to look at it. I mean, Pingree was, if you read Ben's books, I mean, Pingree made a lot of mistakes, and Ben
Yes,
in a lot of his translations and in his introductions has corrected a lot of those assumptions that Pingree made.
Okay.
And so whether or not that's true, I kind of do not believe so, because there's just too many sides to astrology.
So you are a little bit skeptical about this premise from Robert Schmidt, right?
Yeah, I'm a little skeptic about that. You could say that.
So how about this one? That's from Robert Schmidt. How do we know, let's make this larger. How do we know what we know about the traditions we use? How would you answer that question?
How do we know about the traditions we use?
Yeah.
Which traditions are you talking about?
Because
I mean, traditions in the Renaissance are different from the traditions that came into the Persian astrology.
So there my second question comes. How did you personally, getting in contact with all this material in the 90s, on some time, on some day in time, or in a process of a couple of days or weeks or months, you were confronted with a jungle of traditions?
Yes.
You could go back to the nude book written by Alexandra von Lieven about the Egyptology, the demotic findings and research, and you have a lot of traditions. You have the contradictions between Vetus Valens and Ptolemy on one side. You have the Arabics, then you have the Renaissance people, Bonatti, and later on you have Agrippa von Nettesheim. You can choose. How did you personally organize what you are practicing? How did you decide? What was your decision process?
It's just been a process over many years of understanding where things came from and how they became what they became. This has been my biggest concern, is to reestablish a conceptual language that is consistent. Because as you say, it seems inconsistent in places. And I say seems because I don't want to, oftentimes you will read one thing, if you take Vetus Valens and Ptolemy, for example, we'll just take those two. You have different techniques, but they really do, there's some places that they contradict.
Well, the lot theory on Ptolemy is quite a contradiction to Vetus.
Yeah, here in Ptolemy, you have to, the part of understanding our tradition is understanding where these people were coming from.
He was not a practicing astrologer.
He was a scientist. I mean,
yes.
His Almagest was his. This is why it was humorous to Ben Dykes when he was translating the Greater Introduction, and he comes across that Abu Mushar in one says, so this can't be Ptolemy, and he knows that he can't be the same Ptolemy that wrote the Almagest, you know. And it is, we know it is the same Ptolemy, right?
Yes.
Because and Ptolemy, he was using resources, and he was, if you read I believe it's the 21st chapter of his first book, the first book of Tetrabiblos, where he talks about, I don't really go, when he was talking about the 12th parts in particular, he said, well, I don't really go into them because, you know, there's no real astronomical basis for this. To me, I kind of laugh and think, well, that's kind of short-sighted when it's really based on the elongation of the moon from the sun. I mean, that's what it's totally based on, and its astronomical movements of the planets. So for him to say something, but it just really emphasized to me that he really didn't have an understanding of everything. So he tried to, he didn't use any of the lot except for the lot of fortune. And the only way he could make that work for him was by keeping it from the day and the night, because in that way, if you keep it the day and the night, then the lot of fortune becomes the ascendant of the moon, right? The distance from the sun to the ascendant is the same as the moon from the lot of fortune, only in day charts, okay? So this was his rational. Okay, I'm not. I don't. I wasn't there. So, but I really believe strongly this was his rationalization of just using the lot of fortune, because all of a sudden it became the ascendant of the moon. You know. So.
Yeah. Okay.
But see, this is the difference between Vicious Valens, who was practicing it over how many hundreds of charts does he have? Some of them are repeats where he just goes into further detail.
I think 124.
Yeah, something like that.
One,
It's over 100 charts. So
Yeah.
the guy was a practicing astrologer. He was down and dirty in the trenches, you know, delineating charts and, you know, making predictions.
I assume the biggest problem we have is that Vitus Valens with 124. That's the bulk of the horoscope we have at all. Because if you look at the book of Neugebauer van Heusen with the Greek horoscopes, Vitus Valens is the main bulk. And we have, and then we have Ptolemy, and you know, then we have a century, nothing. You know, we lost everything for a century. Then somebody comes around, and 200 years later, in the 4th century, it's Julius Firmicus Maternus, and then we have another gap of 100 years. 100 years where people were doing astrology, and we don't know what they did.
Yes, and just think about the Persian astrology. Because
same thing.
We have zero from the Parthian era.
Yeah, it's all
nothing from the Parthian Empire, and that was up until 230 AD.
And the 400 years from 200 to 700 of the Sassanid Persian regime, nothing. They destroyed everything. So basically, we are looking for the haystack in a fog.
Yes, it's that's why what we have is a very difficult to reconstruct astrology.
Yeah,
I kind of think that's why modern astrology kind of pushed its way in, because they could reconstruct.
It's easy. It's easy.
It was easy. Yes, exactly.
I learned the psychological astrology in 6 weeks, basically, with a little of practice in between the weeks. But that's what was offered. You know, 6 weeks of training and homework in between. And you are talking about 26 years of learning. You're still not finished.
Yes, I'm still not finished. You know, I'm really. I make a prediction, I get it wrong, and then I have to sit down and say, well, okay, what did I do wrong here?
Yes.
Is it the technique that's wrong?
Yeah.
Was I wrong in my delineation? And I really have to study it. I really have to, you know, I say pray over it, because I have to, I guess you could call it meditate over it and see where you make your mistakes, you know?
Yes.
And I think that's just being an honest astrologer, because I want to have an honest astrology. I don't particularly want to make it biased or anything, you know, like it is today. It's become so politically biased and philosophically, everything's got its philosophical bias. I just want an astrology that is consistent and gives me consistent results.
Yeah.
This is why I studied with Robert, because this is what he promised in his course.
Yeah.
He said, I promise, if you study and you do the things in this course and you follow these techniques, you'll have a consistent astrology.
But in both cases, Robert Schmidt and Robert Zoller, the astrological community, as dumb as it is, they allowed that everything gets lost.
Yes.
The Robert Zoller course is not available. The Robert Schmidt material is not available. These people are just ignorant.
I have all of this stuff, but I can't release it because it's copyrighted, right?
Yeah, but that's the problem. The community is failing the field. You know, it's a failure if Robert Zoller's life work and Robert Schmidt's life work is lost because of some dumb copyright possession.
And here
then on earth, buy it, the copyright.
In 2005,
not me, I don't have money, you know, but there are people with money.
This is what Zoller was doing, but I think a lot of people who was handling his affairs were corrupt.
They're stupid. They're simply stupid. Yeah, that's what it is.
Because Robert, in 2004, he sent out an email. I have all of my correspondence with him, and he broke all contact with the New Library London.
Yes, yeah.
Cut it. He rewrote all of his courses.
Yes.
Everything that I have was he wrote at the time. They were his. You know, they're not New Library.
Well, I suppose people like you have to write the whole thing and give it for free to the world, that this does, and please put it on book on demand like people in modern ages do.
This is what
I don't get it. I write a Word document, okay? 500 pages. I put it into a PDF format, dividable by 4. I go to BOD Norderstedt in Germany. I load it up. I pay 1995 euros, and that's all my costs. And the rest is the publishers. And it's available throughout the world. I have 3 books on BOD Norderstedt. And you decide for what price you want to sell it, but please publish it. Not on some, you know, some shelf. And okay, that's my mission. I want to go back to your homepage.
You know what? You sent me your information for your chart. I see you living it right now. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, I can understand it.
No, I really do.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody that has the sun as ruler of the 9th house sitting in the ascendant, and this is it's the exaltation of knowledge. You know,
Yes.
you want to get the knowledge out there. You want to get it accumulated.
Yes,
You want to get it transmitted. This is your you know, your soul.
I agree with you, and we're coming back to your soul or your bio. Let's put it this way: the subside, the bio of Stephen Birchfield, Stephen Adams Birchfield. Let's wrap this up a little bit to come together again. So here is where's the information I was looking for? Bio?
Go to bio, I think. There you go.
I think that's, here we go. I would like to introduce, you did introduce yourself tonight. You have this long 26 learning traditional astrology we talked about. You were with Project Hindsight, and you have, and now I want to come to this, you have been research director of the International Society of Classical Astrologers. What is that?
That was a very exclusive group of people. I'm no longer a member of it.
Does it still exist?
Yeah, well, I believe it does. Yeah. It's run by a, what's his name? Peter. He's Canadian. Well, he's British, but he lives in Canada.
Okay.
He's a traditional astrologer, and he continues to write articles. I wrote a lot of articles on that website. And,
okay.
I did a lot of research, for example, articles on the Fidaria for, you know, this is basically what I was doing is reading the historical record and putting together what is actually in the historical record.
Yes, okay. You were a member of the Society of Astrologers. Which one?
Still am. Well, it's just it's all it is a catalog of classical astrologers in the world who have either graduated with diplomas or something, right? Yeah. So that's one of their.
And you have even published in the Astrologia Restaurata that the publisher was Bernhard Bergbauer. That doesn't exist anymore. Did you have a good relationship with Bernhard Bergbauer?
We knew each other through a couple of other website forum groups, I guess.
So it was no personal connection. It just
I had no. I knew of him very much through Martin, who was actually my student for a good year, Martin. But anyway, that's I never really. They published some of my articles over there.
Okay. Yeah, it's out of business, unfortunately. In Germany, the whole traditional astrology is sort of in the winter sleep for the last 20 years. Nothing happened here. No revival of traditional astrology in Germany, really. But that might come around the corner in a couple of years. Okay, now this quote, Stephen writes, "My goal is to help people to become self-aware and therefore more firmly grounded in understanding in order to walk through this life circumspectly as wise." And that is something in contrast to psychological astrology, right?
Yeah, I mean, you know, in psychological astrology, it's more about self-improvement.
Yes.
You know, I'm not so interested in self-improvement as making people aware of who they are.
Yes.
And being able to walk the path that they have in life, you know, and to be able to walk it with their head up and not, you know, think, well, I need to be something else all the time. I mean, this is the big problem with people today, is they walk around and they want to change themselves. Oh, I need to be this or I need to be that. well, you are somebody. Well, let's find out who you are first. And then let's work on your points that are strong. And you know, that's where all the benefits are, and where are they, you know, what are they doing, and what is the chart luminary doing, and you know, and help people find themselves. I just did a client, and it was really funny because as I was doing this client's chart, I was thinking, this guy's walking his path. Why is he even coming to me? And it was really funny because he's a Frenchman, and he's a Sufi. And and we started talking, and he loved the report I gave, the consultation I gave him. And he said, I just wanted to make sure I was doing the right thing.
Okay.
I said, well, you can't go wrong with that. I mean, you really didn't need me to, you know, confirm it, but yeah, you are walking in your path, you know, as far as I can see, using the gifts that you have and the talents that you have. And I could only encourage you to continue using. He had a Mercury in his first house, you know, a really nice Mercury in his triplicity. So yeah, you get people, and then you get people that are really not self-aware at all. And then you tell them something and they just kind of come a little unhinged, not in a bad way, but you know, they take offense a little bit. And then when you start talking to them, things come out in their life. They're trying to be like their mother, or they're trying to be like this. And you're not being yourself. And now you're becoming self-aware. Now you're starting to understand yourself. Now you can walk ahead. Go ahead, leave this behind and go this way. You know, and this is what I want to help people to see. This is what I believe traditional astrology is good at.
Would you agree that traditional astrology, including the outer planets, is rubbish?
Say that one more time.
The statement I was making was, would you agree using the outer planets, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, in traditional astrology, in a practice of tradition, it is rubbish?
It's rubbish. Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
No compromise whatsoever.
I sat down one time, and no, I don't compromise out at all. There's no reason to.
So basically, what I'm getting is this: there are people like you and me. I'm on your side with that. I think using the outer planets is rubbish. It's guiding us nowhere. But the number of people who are traditional astrologers I became a traditional astrologer in the last months. You have to realize I'm new in this. And I have to read all the books you already have read. But I have them here. Okay, that's something. So basically what we are talking about is Tanya Daniels, in the talk I had with her, said Stephen Birchfield took over the torch from Robert Zoller and is the only guy who is preaching the sermon in the way it was meant. Would you agree on
that? You're asking me to lift myself up. No,
it's basically a question.
I really appreciate that.
Can you name another person who is a pupil of Robert Zoller and who is alive and who is writing articles in the pure traditional astrology sense?
Ben Dykes.
That's another story. I agree. In the introductory part of his books, there's
Owner
a lot of... Who?
Owner in Turkey.
I don't know that guy. Okay.
He was a student, and he uses the outer planet sometimes. Okay, I can't. He isn't really walking in the tradition like he was taught. No, I have to be very honest.
So basically, Tanya is not so wrong, because Ben Dykes is a very specific figure.
Yes.
He has a course. You can book the course of Ben Dykes. In a few weeks, we can book your course, I believe. But let's say, okay, so we have two, Benjamin Dykes and Stephen Ellis Birchfield. That's it. And Tanya Daniels. Okay.
Well, Sharon is
a part of that group. I agree, but that's about it. We are talking about less than 10 people.
Oh yeah, we're very few people. Very, very. Tanya has been so helpful. She reads my lessons that I write.
Yes. Yeah.
And gives her input, and corrects my language sometimes.
So how do we change that? How do we become 1,000 people?
let me ask you a question.
Yes.
How long did it take you to become a lawyer?
Oh, that's easy. I started studies in 1971. The first exam was 1976. The second exam was in 1979, and I was in the ministry. I was in the middle department of the administration government in Lower Saxony for 2 years. Then I went to the ministry, and I was a lawyer after, let's say, 10 years.
People are expecting. See, this is the problem. Is the commitment to it.
Yes.
We don't have it anymore. We don't have the commitment. Why? Yes. Because our art is an art. It's not something that I can just pick up and say, here, read this book, and you can just start, practicing it. There is no book out there. You have some simple primers that'll get you started in the right direction, but you can't walk away from this stuff. You have to, first of all, you have to have a good teacher. Second of all, you need to have a good apprenticeship. You had to intern. I'm 100% certain. You had to intern as a lawyer. You had to go in some place, and you had to start at the bottom, and you had to, in a bigger firm, and you had people over you controlling what you wrote and how you wrote it and how the cases that you handle, whether it's medical profession, whether it's engineering, any of these real, what we call real fact. In Norway, it's realfag.
In Germany, it's freie Berufe, and it's the free liberal profession, right? That's what it is.
These things require time,
yes.
all of them, and they require a commitment on your part. Because I'm committed to this because I love it. First of all, I believe it really, as I said, as an engineer, traditional astrology resonates 100% with me. Okay, because it's down to earth, it's a good language, it's a conceptual language, I can work with that. We just don't have people today that want the commitment. They don't understand that. Like you say, 6 months, you can read a book and you can start, passing a few horary charts, and you can start, making money, and people think that that's going to be a living.
Okay.
People are, they really are naive today. They lack a commitment, this both scholarly commitment, because you have to read these texts, and not just read them. I have to memorize them almost.
Yes.
You get it inside of you, and it just fills your heart. It's like I was once told that don't write a speech, fill up your heart with what you want to say, and then it's just going to flow. It's going to come out because it's part of you. This is what astrology has to be. This is what it was for the people before. It was a commitment, and it's very hard because if you go into it to earn money, then you're cutting your legs immediately. Yes. Because you're going to have to compromise at some place. You're going to have to compromise in order to get out and push a business.
Yes.
I am not that person because I had a profession in my life. I am now retired, so I have income from my retirement, and I don't need. So I only do 2 consultations a month. I won't take any more than that. I only take 2 clients because I need time to work with them. I mean, I can't just do it in one day, churn out this, on my mimeograph machine over here, some kind of report, I can push the button on solar fire or on Janus, and, this nice report comes out with all this, nice gobbledygook. That's not what astrology is. You want to talk to the person. You want to make it personal. You want them to have it for them. You want them to be self-aware. You want to talk about their life. This takes time. I've produced my own tools to work with when I'm working with charts, like a simulacrum. You know what that is? Simulacrum?
No.
Oh, it's just all it is a written chart. All the information on a chart, but in a written form. Okay. Because why? Why do I do that? Yeah, because it makes me very familiar with the chart. When I looked at your chart, I sit down and I start writing it. Because why? Because it imprints it upon me. How many people really do that? Are they just working off of the screen, off of their computer screen, and a button or two? Astrology it's like any profession that, as far as I'm concerned, it is just as detailed as being a medical professional or a lawyer or an engineer, it requires study, it requires a certain amount of time to intern, to become good at what you're doing, to have somebody help you get that way. It's not just, this is why we don't have it today. How many people do you know today, young people, are interested in learning a trade?
It's different, yeah.
Do you understand?
Yes.
Because a trade is the same thing. You're learning, you have to go in, you have to gain the knowledge of what you're doing, and then you have to work under somebody in order to be good at it, you know, and have them check your work, and then you become a journeyman from that work.
Well, in Germany, we have this craft, where we have this combination. You learn for the first 3 years, you learn a craft like plumbing or, you know, something like that, or painting, or
That's just a little bit lower level of what we're talking
that's 3 years. And after that, you have a long period to become a master. And altogether, it's 8 years, more or less.
And people want it tomorrow. They want to start casting
okay.
cards so they can get their 200 krona or whatever, you know.
So how about you becoming the 21st century Christian William, writing the traditional astrology book like Lily wrote the Christian astrology?
Well, I am writing it. That's what I'm writing my course. I finally decided I have to put all this stuff down on paper.
Will you publish it as a manual, a book on the market?
Tanya, that was her first. She said, Stephen, you need to publish this as a book.
Why don't you do it? I mean, you realize
it may end up as a book eventually.
No, I give you an impression. Okay, that's my 80-20 principle. You invest 20% amount of time to get 80% of results. That's a law in business administration. And for the additional 20% being very exact, you need another 80% of input. So why don't you follow this rule like this? You have all these articles and all the material you already have written. You publish it tomorrow as a PDF on Book on Demand Nordisch that costs you 20 euros, and then it's available throughout the world as an ESBN book. And then you work, you continue work, and then you publish, you leave the first edition available, then you publish the second edition for another 20 euros. It's 40 euros now, that's nothing. But your 2 books are available. And I would say when the 10th edition, and you leave all the other editions on the market, don't take them out. So one can follow what your work process was. And in 20 years, the 10th edition is the comparable to Christian William Lilly's Christian astrology. Why not do this? And it's possible because you have the material already available. Put it into one PDF, format it according to the publishers. They give you a couple of options. I would recommend the DIN A4 option for the first volume, then you have no problem at all. And then you publish that thing in the next week, because put all what you have in one book and don't edit it, because that's a violation of the 80-20 principle.
Here's the problem with that, is that the way I write my material, I'm Socratic method of teaching.
Yes.
I ask questions, I want them to answer themselves. But at the same time, I've got 2, I guess you could call them beta students right now, because they're reading through my course.
Yes.
And taking the course themselves. But they come up questions. And so that's why I have an online part where after each lesson, I can go online with them. They can give me their question. They can say, well, I've got this chart and this is what I don't understand here. And I can help them, walk them through it, you know, which you can't do with the book. You know, you cannot, that is missing.
I agree. But remember, we are talking about 80-20 principle.
Yes.
Your forum was part of the second part. You know, that's the exact to become 100%.
You and Sharon are very much alike.
You should think about the first step would be all the texts you have, and you have a copyright of all those texts. All the texts you publish wherever they were, you have them still on computer, right?
I have everything I've ever written.
So it takes you, I would guess, 8 hours work to publish them as a series of books, because it will be more than 1,000 pages, right? The limit with BOD Nordisch is 700 pages.
700 pages?
That's
Some of it,
the limit
yeah,
for
I mean,
that's the limit of publishing what they
just what I've written on the lots of the luminaries. I wrote a whole, I mean, that book in itself is over 500 pages.
Okay, that's one book. Publish it. Don't discuss it.
Well,
Publish
I'm
it
not
as
happy.
as it is. And
No.
then later, give it to the community, give it to us. Let us buy it, let us read it in Kindle version and in ebook and in print. Print is very important. Never only electronic. Yes. And then publish it. It costs you 19 euros 95 cents. That's all it costs you, nothing more. If you need help for that process, give me an email and I will walk you through the process. You have to establish an account. It's called bod.de. You open an account, costs you nothing. You become a customer of BOD Norderstedt, and then you produce classic projects. That's for the libraries and the booksellers and all. And everybody all over the world, in every country on the world, can order that book from BOD Norderstedt in Hamburg, and your cost is 20 euros. That's nothing. No, all you have to invest is 8 hours, put this stuff together, publish book number 1. Next week you publish the rest, book number 2, and let's say all your lectures, all your articles are published in, let's say, in 4 weeks. And then you start sort of organizing the classical manual of Stephen Ellis. You know, and you give it the title Christian Astrology of the 21st Century. How about that?
It would be definitely Christian astrology.
Okay, with that, I finish our very wonderful talk. I thank you very much for your long patience with me. We had a long talk.
It's been very interesting, Volker. It's been very interesting.
And
I was interesting because you sent me an email and you said, yes. here's my chart also. Yeah, if you want to look at it and tell me about my soul, or, you know.
If you want to use it, use it. Okay, I thank you publicly, and then we talk a little bit later after the stopping of the recording. Okay, Stephen Ellis Birchfield, thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank
and
you.
For the viewers, thanks a lot for coming by. Herzlichen Dank fürs Vorbeischauen, and auf bald, and I stop the recording.